I think Tide fans should definitely be expecting an explosive, speedy player, but do not expect Jalen Waddle. I know Alabama fans, this is the next Jalen Waddle. Every time they see those small, compact wide receivers with a lot of speed, oh, that's Jalen Waddle. Yeah, that's Jalen Waddle 2.0. But I don't think he is a Jalen Waddle type of wide receiver. And I say that because I don't think he has the type of vertical that Jalen Waddle possesses. I think that is what separates Waddle from most wide receivers. If you saw him play basketball in high school, Waddle is a guy that can dunk basketball.
There's a difference between explosive speed and just explosive athleticism, I think, because you can just like, hit the gas right away, or you could just be hitting the gas and jumping 5 yards downfield. If that even makes sense to people, I mean, he's just all around just even more of an athlete than Leary would be.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I think you painted the perfect picture when you said that Jalen Waddle is more of that.
I'm glad.
Yeah, Jalen Waddle is more of that explosive athlete, and Christian Leary does have explosive speed. I think he really excels when he's catching the football in stride and his feet are on the ground, when he can catch the football and continue to move up the field. But he is very explosive. 4.3 speed. He's going to destroy angles in the open field. It is a lot to like about Christian Leary, but I wouldn't compare him to Jalen Waddle. I think he's a different type of player. I think he plays a little bit more like Calvin Ridley. If I had to make a comparison to a former Alabama player, I would compare JoJo Earl a lot more to Jalen Waddle than Christian Leary.
Don't you just love the comparison game?
Yeah.
Because every time you're talking about these new guys coming in, it's like, oh, who's he remind you of? What kind of player is he? Is he Jalen Waddle? Is he Calvin Ridley? And to me, I was like, kind of let the kid be his own player. I mean, not everyone needs to be the next Tua Tagovailoa. It's just that's what I'm just saying, because Bryce Young is that level of hype when he was coming in. He's that. Some of these players almost get unrealistic expectations just because of what they did in high school, and it's a testament to how talented they were in the seasons they had. But at the same time, at least in my brain, maybe I'm not giving them enough credit for their mental toughness coming in, but it's like, maybe they don't need to be here, and maybe they don't need to be getting compared to all these like NFL starters right off the bat when they get here, because sometimes it could be really hard to break the depth chart at Alabama.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of difficult to compare them to just former Alabama players. It is more players.
It's always who would just he reminded me of Alabama, because Alabama's only had all the great players. They've had players that have played all these different positions, and they can only the greats can be from Alabama. When it's like, maybe this guy reminds me of Jamar Chase, or maybe he reminds me of anyone else. Maybe reminds me of Tim Tebow. Who knows? I mean, it's just I don't even know.
Yeah, before we close out this conversation about this, it is sort of difficult at times to compare them just to former Alabama players. But I can say honestly, when you look at matter of fact, I think all four of Alabama's 2021 wide receiver signings, it was actually not that difficult. I actually wrote a piece on it, shining a light on it, because it was kind of sort of fell in place when you look at the 2021 wide receivers Alabama brought in. I compared A.J. Hall to Julio Jones. I know that is a lofty comparison. That you can't
that's big.
That's big. Yeah, you can't just throw that comparison out there. So I definitely had to put some numbers on it. I don't have the numbers right on top of my head, but the story definitely lays out the numbers.
I'm not like poo-pooing like the whole the comparison game. It's just me personally. It's like, and look, if you're scouting these guys every single day, and the ins out of all this and the scouting and whatnot. So if you see a player that reminds you of someone else, I mean, you should say it, But just in terms, and that's just kind of just my weird mentality about it. Because look, I'm not watching all this high school tape, and I'm not comparing it to these guys right now. I'm only watching what they do in the crimson and white. So that's just my take on it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting just to see the comparison, but Alabama fans are always going to ask that question because they are most familiar with Alabama players, and it's sort of easier for them to
it's always going to happen. It's part of sports. Who's this guy remind you of? The NFL draft's coming up, we're going to see a million comparisons to all these all-time greats, and probably 78% of them will be busts or just average players. So
that's just
it's just the way of the beast.
Yeah, and the thing I wanted to ask you now, I guess to segue into the next segment, what position group are you most excited about seeing, possibly most likely on the offensive side of football. As far as the position battle, what position group are you sort of looking forward to watch develop?
As much as I'd love to say the offensive line, we already talked enough about that, I think. But I think the running backs are interesting to me because Najee Harris carried so much of the load over the past 2 seasons, really. And Brian Robinson's back, but you also have guys like Jace McClellan and Trey Sanders coming off an injury. Thank God he's okay. And a couple of other guys coming in who they were able to sign. So I think like we're going back to Bill O'Brien. I mean, when he was with the Patriots or the Texans or and whatnot, he liked to use multiple different running backs. And Alabama, as we know, likes to use multiple different running backs. So I'm kind of thinking, will they get back to that, or will one of them separate themselves from the pack?
Yeah. I'm definitely excited to see if that will happen. Sort of hard to do because I think he definitely wants to continue passing the football, but they do have a quarterback situation that they have to sort out. With Bryce Young being the favorite, I think that has a lot to do with it. But a running game will help anyone.
The quarterback's best friend is the running game because it will only set up everything else. And well, just in my opinion, I don't think there's going to be one that's going to separate themselves. I haven't seen it. I don't think in my opinion, there really isn't that one guy who just encapsulate. At least maybe you can shine some light on the new guys coming in, but there hasn't been that many super young freshmen. I think T.J. Yeldon is the only one that came to mind as a freshman running back who just came in and demanded playing time. Maybe Najee to a degree, but I mean Josh Jacobs, Damian Harris, and Bo Scarborough, they were those guys. Yeah. But I don't really see that one guy who's going to be like, I need to get 35 touches a game. I need to get 40 touches a game. You're not taking me off the field on third down. So I think it's going to be a mishmash of Brian Robinson's going to be involved. I think Trey Sanders will be involved. And I mean, this is just me because it's I think Jace McClellan, he was impressive in the games that he was in last year. So I'm just selfishly thinking that he will just, he'll be a guy to break through. So. And, maybe even Keelan Robinson. Nick Saban really liked Keelan Robinson. Now he's going to be coming back to the team this year. He's another speed guy. So I think it's going to be just a whole collection of backs that they're going to be using. Do you think any of the young guys will have it, like, maybe not start, obviously, but just maybe, maybe get a couple carries here and there? Or
It's so hard to say because Jace McClellan is going to want some rushes, possibly get some rushes early in the game. If it's late in the game, Jace McClellan could still be in that conversation. Keelan Robinson definitely has to be right there, along with Rodale Williams. Lamar Wheaton is the 5-star running back coming in. He possibly
that's what I was getting at. But you look, hand up. I haven't crunched the tape on Kamar Wheaton. I'm sorry, but I'm just asking. But I'm just getting your perspective on it. I mean, obviously he's a very talented guy, but as of right now, maybe he's not ready to break into this rotation. And part of me, too, wants to see Brian Robinson kind of finally take those steps forward, even though I don't think he's going to be – he's not going to be like a 1,500-yard season guy. He's not going to do that. But he can run tough at the end of games like he did in the national championship game, where when he was getting his carries, I think they shaved off like 3 minutes of the clock, and maybe that's just what he is. He's just going in the end of the game, fresh legs, hasn't been beaten on the whole season. He's just gonna demoralize teams. I mean, that might just be him.
Yeah, I think the door is, like you said, is open for any of those guys. I feel Trey Sanders and Brian Robinson are going to be the projected, at least at this point, the projected 2 top running backs on Alabama's roster. It's hard to just see who exactly will follow behind them with Jace McClellan, Rodale Williams, Kyle Edwards, now Keelan Robinson coming back a lot bigger.
We've all seen the pictures and videos. He did do some work during the quarantine.
Yeah, it's added some muscle to that speed. So we could talk all day about who possibly can get over that. But I think the biggest question is, how do you keep all of these guys in Tuscaloosa? Because everyone wants to get on the field. I just remember in high school, guys who did not do anything in practice. I don't even know if they were at practice. They probably were in the back somewhere chilling. But on the day of the game, can I get in the game, coach? They're following the coach all around. They don't know the game plan. They probably have not even been paying attention at practice. Can I get in the game? Can I get in the game? These guys are, when they were in high school, these 4- and 5-star recruits, they were always in the game. Sometimes on both sides of football, they always had the football in their hands on most occasions. And that is kind of a challenge coming to Alabama. We have seen it in the past. Najee Harris, Tua Tagovailoa, they have contemplated transferring because they were not getting playing time. And you have to think those guys who are currently on Alabama's roster, that is sort of in the back of their head. Of course, everyone wants to wait their turn because when you come to Alabama, you know that that is a possibility. You know, once you sign your national letter of intent to the University of Alabama, you know that is a possibility. But at the same time, you are a competitor. You know what you bring to the table. I want to get on the field because I know if I get an opportunity, I can explode. But you have so many talented guys in front of you. In your opinion, how do they keep all of those guys in some schools?
Well, I mean, I think Nick Saban's just got to preach the fairy tale story of look at Mac Jones, look at Jalen Hurts, look at Tua. They waited their time and they were able to break through or just take advantage of your opportunity. I think that's just all he tells his players. When you have an opportunity, take advantage of it because maybe that'll lead to more time on the field. But I think that situation, and I think we've had this conversation off camera of how that was a little bit unique, even though it's going to be a great recruiting tool. To be like, hey, even if you don't start right away, don't let that encourage you. Stick to the process and work through it. But that hasn't always worked at Alabama. There are guys who have just fizzled out and who've been 5-star recruits and huge guys coming in, or they had to transfer somewhere else to some small school. I mean, how many 5-star quarterbacks did Alabama have come into the university and transfer out and just do nothing? I mean, Blake Barnett's one to think about. Cooper Bateman. I don't even know if these guys are 5-stars, but these were just hyped players that just never really worked out. So I think you got to really preach people on the process. But at the running back position, I think it's much easier to manage because you can play multiple games. There's only one quarterback on the field. So I think just maybe get some touches here or there, make him feel important. But that's not even really what Nick Saban wants to do. He just wants to play the best players the whole time. And if not, I mean, just kind of tough,
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I expect Nick Saban in Alabama to figure it out. It wouldn't surprise me if they figure it out and get guys to buy in to wait their turn. Because when you come to Alabama, like I said, you know that is a possibility. And when I talk to recruits, they always say nothing is going to be given to you. That is what Nick Saban preaches on the recruiting trail. You're not going to get the position because you are a 5-star recruit, but I will give you the opportunity to fight for the position.
And that's basically all it is. He's giving these kids an opportunity. I mean, there's going to be no promises, but you got to earn what you get at Alabama, and that's just going to be the way it is.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And I guess to move things forward, moving things in front of the running back to the quarterback position, because I think that is another intriguing position heading into the spring. And in my opinion, like you said earlier, it is Bryce Young's job to lose, in my opinion. I think he's in the best position to be the starting quarterback. But just looking at the spring game, if Paul Tyson or Jalen Milroe want to make this a competitive quarterback battle, to get most Alabama fans to buy into the fact that this is a real quarterback competition, I think Paul Tyson or Jalen Milroe have to have a big game at the A-Day event. I think Bryce Young can get away with having an average game, but I think Paul Tyson or Jalen Milroe has to have like a big 3 to 4 touchdown game to make Alabama fans and possibly Alabama coaches feel like this is a real deal quarterback battle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think you need to throw 3 touchdowns. I mean, because we don't know how much ground they need to make up in terms to be the starter. Because if you look at all of Alabama's quarterback battles, they've all kind of trickled into the regular season. I mean, even though Tua Tagovailoa was the consensus to be like, yeah, he's probably going to be the starter, it still took that Louisville game to see for Nick Saban to evaluate the position, and he's got that famous quote, after the fact. So, I mean, if you just look at but if going back to Jalen Hurts, when he was a freshman, I was actually at the spring game when I was a freshman at the University of Alabama, and I remember watching him play. And he just looked like he was the quarterback who seemed most in control. And I think stability is something that Nick Saban really wants out of it. That's what he truly wants out of his quarterback. He just wants stability. He doesn't want a lot of turnovers. I know Alabama's scoring 40 points a game, but if you just don't hurt the team at all and you just control the offense, I think that's what he's really looking for. So, as long as you can show that, I think you'll have a chance in the fight, even if Bryce Young is out there throwing a bunch of touchdowns. I think you can still make a case just in the spring game if you just play under control and show them that you can be a functional quarterback in the offense.
Yeah, I think it's hard for me to see Nick Saban naming a starter possibly before the first game at this point.
It's just not in his nature.
Yeah, it's hard for me to see that. Although we feel Bryce Young is the favorite, I still feel. Let me make it clear. I still feel that this is a quarterback battle. But looking at it more so from the fan perspective, I think Paul Tyson or Jalen Miro has to have a big game for Alabama fans to get more so.
Yeah, it's more so. Yeah, I agree with that. They have to have big games to get fans convinced. I mean, the coaching staff's going to know, I think, beforehand even going in. I think in terms of the fan base, just to win them over, they need the three or four touchdowns out of them. But I mean, the talent's gonna rise to the top in the spring game and going forward into the fall camp.
Yeah, control is important. Like you said, at the Jalen Hurts spring game, he definitely was in control. And when you look at the 8-day game, it is a controlled event for the most part. It's not a full.
Nick Saban's on the field making sure everything goes according to plan.
Yeah, it is a pretty controlled event. So I think control is definitely going to be important for a guy like Paul Tyson and a guy like Jalen Miro, especially for Tyson, because he does not really have that much game experience anyway. So I think game control and control of the offense will be huge for him to make a push during the spring, also during the fall camp as well.
Yeah, I agree. Excuse me, I agree. I agree. I think that I'm excited. I'm excited to see Paul Tyson play because he really hasn't gotten an opportunity to. I don't even think he's attempted a pass at Alabama. So it's just gonna be really interesting to see how he works in this offense.